Welcome to the Hiring and Empowering Solutions podcast. This podcast is dedicated to providing the key ingredients to transform your employees into a dream team, creating consistent results in every aspect of your business, including your people, your process, and your profits. Your team empowerment, leadership, business development, communication, hiring, and firing. As some of the country's leading staffing and management consultants, we help business owners, i.e. entrepreneurs, and the team that support them, what we call intrapreneurs, to powerfully connect and work together to grow the business. I have had this conversation come up so much the past couple of weeks, whether I'm facilitating a team meetings, facilitating a weekly marketing meeting, or getting emails or phone calls or texts from attorneys saying, how do I handle this when an employee says, I couldn't get to it or I didn't get to it? I want to talk about this. And first and foremost, please, please, please keep sending me emails and feedback and comments around the things that you're up against, whether you're an employee, whether you're an attorney, you're a CEO, you're a PLA, whatever that might be in the law firm, of, hey, here's the situation, fact pattern, scenario, and what you got. How would you handle this? Because these are the topics of our podcasts. I don't love just speaking into a microphone about my own perspective. Your comments, your feedback, your struggles, your hiccups, your victories are what give us the content so we can speak into the industry in a leveraged way to help get you all on the same playing field and able to reach goal, whatever your definition of goal is, with a tremendous amount of ease, flow, consistency, and heck, how about some celebration and joy? So, employees, stop saying, I couldn't get to it. When matters come up during your daily huddles, your weekly meetings, whether it be your team meetings or if it's a email or if it's a water cooler question, to your entrepreneurs, to your attorneys, to your managers, to your leaders, because that information, that response does not instill confidence. There's nothing they can really do with that other than what would be a natural response to that? Why not? Well, how come? Well, when can you? And those then land on the employee like fighting words, like they don't trust you, or all these other things that we come up with. And then it becomes this vicious cycle where the attorney's not going to do that anymore, or your PLA is not going to do that, or your COO or office manager, because they've seen the response on you. And then you shut down, then you're not productive, and it creates this vicious cycle. So the goal is to respond with a proposed solution. So when asked of, hey, what's the status of this, whether face-to-face or in an email or wherever it might be, instead of saying, I didn't get to it, I couldn't get to it, I wasn't able to get to it, whatever the response would be, if you weren't able to accomplish it, the response should really be, I just want to let you know, it was on my list for Tuesday to work on that. It's in my time template in my planning to get to that on Tuesday, and it didn't happen, but I've scheduled time on Thursday. Give a proposed solution. Let them know, here's the deal, is that I had it, and not I didn't get to it, but let them know when you actually had it scheduled in your time template, in your planning to work on, to say, I had it scheduled. I had 2 hours blocked out on Tuesday to work on that. And here's what trumped that. And I want you to know I'm paying attention to it. I'm aware of it. I am fully, wholly aware that this consistently happens. And I'm trying to track it from a place of research and development, from a place of data analytics to see what keeps taking me off my time template, off my top 3, off my priorities, so we can really make an informed business decision about where our time template's getting hijacked, what have you. And here's where it's in my planning. It's in my planning for Thursday. I do have a 2-hour block of time on Thursday. I'm going to pay really close attention to if some other crisis, emergency, what have you, comes up. Do I have your full permission, attorney, supervisor, whoever is asking you, that when it comes from 2 to 4 or 12 to 2, whatever it is I have blocked out to work on this? Do I have your full permission if something tries to trumpet, emergency, what have you, to, number one, come to you and really discern if it is an emergency and it requires taking me off this? Or do you want me to just absolutely shut down whatever is coming at me and let the person know who's making the request that I am uninterruptible? No matter what, come hell or high water, I need to get this done this week. What is the proposed solution that we have for when this comes up? So you're not saying I couldn't get to it. When people say, oh, I didn't get to it, or I forgot about it, that just crushes an entrepreneur's faith that anybody knows what the hell's going on around here. It just crushes the faith that anybody has critical thinking to be able to project manage and to be able to really manage priorities. There will always be crisis. There will always be interruptions. Our job, your job as employees, is to get deeply, deeply curious when something comes as a crisis or an emergency and takes you off your time template. You're like, oh my goodness, this is grist for the mill. This is information. I can't wait to report in our daily huddles, in our team meeting, that my goal, my top 3 for the day, for the week were, and this is what stopped me. Because as a business owner, they want that data, they want that information. Because they're like, okay, that happened to you, that happened to Susie, and that happened to Johnny. All right, so we've all 3 of you got taken off your game by, something that the client service coordinator should have done, the legal assistant, the interns, or the bookkeeper, or whomever it is. And when you start to see this day after day after day, it's not that anybody's in trouble. This information is so critical. So your response should come from a place of deep curiosity, awareness, ownership, and that you are on a fact-finding mission to come up with a solution and find the root cause. And communicating that. So if the attorney says, were you able to send out those fee agreements to the 3 people that are waiting to write us checks and hand us money? And you're like, no, I wasn't able to get to that. Like, think about that. Sit with that. If you have to physically get up and move across the table and sit in an attorney's position when they hear that, like, okay, I spend so much money every single month on marketing to get this phone to ring. And then people actually call us, and then they actually get in here and they like us and they want to hire us for a lot of money for our genius that we perform. And we can't even get them a fee agreement to let them pay us, which will help us grow, which will cover your salary, which will give you the raise and the bonus and everything else that you want and I want for you. But when I get a response that I couldn't get to it, and, there's $15,000 sitting on your desk because you had to help Susie with the printer that jammed or what have you. When you give them the data, yes, I have the fee agreements. They were on my planning for me to do first thing yesterday morning, and Susie called in sick, so there was nobody to answer the phone. We had 3 client meetings coming in, and I need to greet them. I need to get them coffee. I need to set them up. I needed to do X, Y, and Z in addition to manage the phones. And the mornings are our busiest day. And then I needed to move into drafting or whatever. Well, when you give them that information, number one, after the fact, Then we can triage and figure out what we're going to do to handle that. Okay, well, actually, you should have gave it to Bobby to answer the phones, or I would have liked that you would have told the associate attorney or me that you weren't able to get the fee agreements out, and I would have stopped everything I was doing to support you. So we can't triage, we can't help. So one thing with that of saying versus I couldn't get to it and having a ton of shame around it and then feeling like you're in trouble and then the attorney not knowing how to respond to that, come to it from a place of business decisions, because at that point we could say, all right, guys, you know what? We need to have a quick huddle to figure out what to do when the receptionist calls in sick so it doesn't take any of us off our game. So what can we do to have that? What can we do to handle that? So that's after the fact. Going forward, when you know you have something on your time template, when you know what you have for your top priorities, when you know people have given you stuff, and maybe it wasn't very clear on the deadline, or maybe the deadline was very clear, and you're navigating your day, and it's becoming inherently clear that you are not going to get to it if you keep on your day the way you are and let, whatever emergency and crisis, and I'm not judging it, it could be very, very real, but you're already, and you know when you aren't going to get to something. Proactively come to the person that gave it to you and over communicate with them. Let them know, hey, all right, real quick, I know you gave this to me. The goal was to get these fee agreements out. Right now it's 4:00. I need to be out the door to get my kids at 5:00 from daycare or to soccer or whatever it is. And here's where I'm trending right now. This isn't going to get done. I still need to print and assemble docs for the signing for tomorrow. I need to handle this. So-and-so left early. They did not communicate to all that. Here are the priorities right now. We need to print and assemble documents. We need to get these fee agreements out that you asked me to do. And we have this and this. I'm just making this up, but the top 4 things that absolutely need to get done in the 4 hours. Let's huddle. And what do we want to do with this? Okay, don't worry, give printing assembled to this person, or you know what, give me the fee agreements. I'll do them real quick. You go and do number 2 and 3 and give Cindy number 4. I'll take 1, you take 2 and 3, give Cindy 4. That is so much more productive. Number 1, it is so much more engaging. And you feel so good about yourself when you drive off to get your kids from soccer versus being so frustrated that you sucked at work. Now you're sucking at parenting because you're late. And now you're bringing this huge backpack of energy to soccer and just already crushing your night because you weren't able to do the things you know you need to do. And guess what? You're going to get a text or an email from the boss at 10 o'clock at night or whomever saying, hey, did you do blah, blah, blah? And your response is going to be, no, I couldn't get to that. You know how this story will end. Nobody's going to feel good about it. And it can be prevented. So be the preventer and be in over communication. Manage your day, which allows everyone to not have to worry about managing their emotions and then managing this whole vicious cycle that occurs when our knee-jerk reaction is, I couldn't get to it or I didn't get to it. No, but we get the excuses or the reasons that they weren't able to be done. They're valid. We get that. But when you're not over communicating and giving the State of the Union and debriefing and treating it like a locker room huddle so we can make a game time decision and everybody's in the dark, nobody wins there. You feel bad, your boss is upset that we didn't deliver on our promises to whomever we need to. And now guess what? We're starting tomorrow. Everybody fired up, feeling like crap, and then not being and feeling like it's Groundhog Day again. And then we go into this super dark place of creating a story that we all suck, we always suck, we never can get to anything, blah, blah, blah. And it's not helpful and it's not real and it's not true and it doesn't have to be that way.
The bottom line is you're choosing it by not, number one, being aware, paying attention to what your top priorities are. If you have to carry them around on a clipboard, a yellow legal pad, a sticky note, and just being there and having, like I remember when my kids are playing Little League football and they'd have those wristbands with all the game time decisions on there and they flip them over and look at them on the sidelines, what have you. We got to make changes. We have to reroute this course. Well, we can do that. It's amazing with a little bit of communication of how you can completely transform how the day went, what we accomplished, and how your evening's going to go, and how the rest of your week and your tomorrow is going to go by just over communicating and at 4:00 when you have 5 things you need to get done, you need to be out the door, and you're not going to get them done if you just communicate with your team. And if people are in a meeting or what have you, how do we want to handle this? So even if that was the case, you can send an email and say, okay, guys, here's what happened. There's nobody for me to go to. My proposed solution is we do a real quick huddle tomorrow morning to figure out how to rectify this, what the standards are, and who has authority, responsibility, and permission at the end of the day to be able to turn these things around. Lack of information is what causes drama, trauma, frustration, lack of confidence, employees feeling like crap, bosses feeling like craps, and pissed off clients. You're in full control and you can choose this. So employees, please never ever say, I couldn't get to it. You want to make certain, first and foremost, you can spearhead it and inform everyone with over communication beforehand when you know you're not able to get to it. Number one. Number two, when somebody gives you something, make certain you clarify and verify what's my deadline. If I give you something at 2:00 in the afternoon, I already have my day stacked. I know I'm not going to get to it. That's where you can say, okay, here are my top priorities for the rest of the day. I know you told me by 5:00 today, but right when they give it to you, let them know what's on your plate. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's not realistic. Okay, I'll give it to someone else. Or it does need to happen. So what can come off your plate? How can we make this happen? But if you just say yes, and then you're like, what the heck? Does this guy not know what's already on my plate? No, they don't. They don't remember because they've had 400 things come at them since they walked from the bathroom to their office 7 minutes ago. So no, they don't remember. So over communicate with them. And then when it does happen, the next response from you should be very much with a tremendous amount of data. It was here in my planning versus I couldn't get to it. This is when I intended to do it. So you can communicate. I actually realistically carved out time for this to do it versus putting it on a list on page 14 of 13 other pages of things that needed to be done. Here's why it didn't get done. Here's where it is, when it is going to done, and get done. And if that doesn't work, then we need to come up with plan B. And if I don't get to it by the end of today, like I've intended, I'm going to really quickly communicate what the interruptions, crises, and emergencies were. Or do I have your permission to go into a quarantine box right now and we over communicate with everyone on the team? I am not to be touched between 2 and 4 unless the building is on fire. And in fact, if there's a risk of that, I'm going to go home and do it, or I'm going to go to the coffee shop across the street or whatever it is, because I need to make certain there wouldn't be anything of that nature. If you're struggling, employees, with how to clarify what the standards are around when you're not able to get things, how to identify where the breakdowns are in people, process, or production, reach out, get on my calendar. Let's get on a 30-minute call and really dissect this so you can have a very, very helpful response versus I couldn't get to it. And attorneys, if you are struggling with this, something that you've heard over and over again, so you're afraid to even ask for an update on it. And I would love for you to get on a call with me, but here's the deal. You got to bring your employee, because I can't tell you, and then you got to go back and tell them. And I don't know how you're going to deliver it to them, how it's going to land, how their feedback's going to be. Let me facilitate that conversation so we can walk out with a clear, concise plan that everybody's on board with and excited about. All right, let me know how you do. Until next time.
If you like what you hear on our podcast, please feel free to visit our website at hiringandempoweringsolutions.com. So we love that you are listening to this podcast. Please drop us a line with any feedback, suggested topics you'd like to hear. And absolutely, we'd love to hear about your victories and your win in regards to creating entrepreneurs in an entrepreneur's world.